I will probably disappoint some of you. The presentation will not be about how to lie. Sorry, it will be. Okay, we are people leaving the room already. So how not to lie, because we sometimes lie by accident, and how to know when you are lied to. So these will be my main points. Oh, nothing's moving. Wait. Yeah. All right. So to lie or not to lie, that's the question I will try to answer today. And I hope to increase some of your data literacy so you can spot the lie when you see it. And data literacy is a skill that you can acquire, you can improve it, and it really helps, especially in the information era. When we have a lot of information coming our way, we have to understand, should we listen to it or not? And today, I will start with a philosophical topic about how we interpret the information. Then I'll show you why and how it's easy to lie with charts. And then we'll look at some examples, my 9 ways how to lie with charts, but I could keep on with 10 and 11. And so there are many more ways how you can do that. All right. So this is one of my most recent pictures of my family, and as you can see, I'm always wearing the same shirt. Yeah, and the story I wanted to tell about this is there's this usual drama. We have 2 kids, and they fight. And one day, my smallest one comes to me crying and says that the bigger sister has hit her, and obviously the bigger one is guilty. And I approach her, and she says, well, no, my little sister hit me first, so the little one is now guilty. So it's the other way around. But then the little one says, yeah, but I hit her yesterday, not today. So again, it changes. So it's a revenge. And revenge is not good. So you are guilty again. And the last fact I got her is that she was about to hit the bigger sister again. So it's avenge or self-defense. So my response to this is just no screen time for today, and case closed. And let's try to understand how we come to this truth. What is truth, and how you can decide what should be the proper answer for things. This is one of them examples how it might progress, let's say. The first thing you do is you collect some information, collect facts, collect data. Then you try to add some context, validate the data, clean it up, make it kind of collectible so you could do something with it. Then you connect these lines and you start making opinions. When you make these opinions over time, you start seeing patterns. For example, if one is crying, then you know instantly that there will be a drama. And once you get wise enough, you just set the rules. For example, if anyone complains, there is no screen time, right? Immediately, but that's not a parenting advice from my side. But then again, if we look at the same information and we try to understand, it's usually difficult for ourselves to decide what's the right or wrong answer for specific questions. But what if somebody else has connected these dots? How you can make sure that their understanding of how connect these dots actually is the same as yours, and should it be the same as yours? Perhaps there are more than one truth. And if there are more than one truth and many ways how you can connect these dots, then which truth is the right truth, right? Over time, there are clusters of people who might believe one or other truth more. And the bad thing, you should say, is that the facts, the underlying information is probably the same. It's just the way how you present this information, how you connect these dots, and how you come to your opinions. And this is one of those examples. You might think that you are right and the other is wrong, but probably we are just looking at the same facts from different perspectives, and no one is right or wrong. There are just different truths. And my philosophical thought is that truth actually is like a really complex three-dimensional object, and you can only see one side at one time. It's like a shadow cast. And oftentimes the truth is really complex, and we people don't like complex things, so we try to simplify. And when we simplify and we something that we like, then we apply it as our truth, and we present it as something new. But in fact, the more we change this complex object and the more we gather data, the more the truth changes. And in the end, the truth becomes like a collection of different perspectives. And this is one of the reasons why in eazyBI you can explore your data. It's not just a snapshot. You have to look at this from different perspectives. All right. Yeah, so it comes down to interpretation, how you connect these dots. Yeah, self-explanatory, right? So it comes, when you look at any information, the one question you should ask yourself always is, can you trust the one who connected these dots? Can you verify the information they have used? And can you verify the source? And this will give you at least some understanding what's happening. All right, next about charts, because the topic is how to lie with charts, or how others can lie with charts. The first fact we should all know is that 90% of information we capture is visual, because our eyes are one of the strongest sense we have. Furthermore, our brain can process this visual information like much higher. For example, in 1/10 of a second, you can get a gist of an action, an image or something. It's like 36,000 images can be processed in 1 hour. So you can imagine the power of imagery. At the same time, our lazy brains are built to jump to conclusions because it's more efficient. Sometimes when a tiger attacks, we don't have time to analyze. We just have to jump to conclusion, run, and then we can stop and analyze. And there's a concept like mind one and mind two, or slow mind and fast mind. And most of the time we jump to conclusions, and if we have more time, then we can reflect and analyze things. When it comes to charts, those work like a bridge. So you don't even have time to understand that you have jumped to these conclusions, because once you see a report, these conclusions are injected into your mind. So it's really dangerous to look at charts, actually. One thing that we do, but this is the reason why we try to teach you not to make mistakes and not to fall for these lies. All right, then let's continue with some examples. First thing before I start, so there are those who want to lie deliberately. They will exaggerate information or change this information to lie to you, which is one thing I want you to learn and to understand. And yeah, you sometimes don't recognize that you might be lying to others just by using a wrong chart or doing some visualization methods that might convey a bad information. So I hope that these examples will help you catch yourself in lying and also see others lying. All right, let's start with lie number 1, visual perspective. You can use visuals like 3D representations to convey bad information. As you can see, these are the same wedges, but we optically see them as 2 different sizes because of how they are represented. Here's another example, same 3D. If we look at this chart, you might say that green and red together look about the size of the blue one, the first one. When in fact, if you look at these percentages, the total sum of green and red is closer to 20%, while the blue one is closer to 40%. So if we want to collect or understand what's the same size, so the red, the green, the violet, and the cyan color wedges make up together up to 40%, which is the same size as the first blue one. So you wouldn't see that with your eyes. It doesn't look like that. Here's the same 3D pie chart, but displayed more correctly. And I say more because I don't like pie charts. But then again, Muslims is not the biggest religion in the world. Here's another one on marketing, right? Or something similar. One tells that administration takes 25 to 27% of each dollar, so it should be avoided or changed or something. At the same time, the administration came up with an ingenious idea that we should create a cone and tell others that the administration expenses are actually minimal, so we can keep on working like it we did before. Same thing with different 3D objects. It's very difficult to understand the numbers, compare anything, or see any trends. Yeah, these were popular in like 1990s, if you remember. Then the lie number 2, when we change the baseline of a chart. Here's one example. On the left side, the chart starts at 50%. On the right side, it starts at 0. Obviously, these are the same data. Yeah, in the left chart, it seems dramatic. Yeah, the change is dramatic. It looks like more than twice. Here's a similar information. Here's the the y-axis is cut off at 3%. If you want to present a dramatic information in somewhere, then you might use this. And this is exactly what news tried to do. For example, this one would look like this if it would be portrayed correctly. Here's another example where the y-axis starts at 5.25. Someone just wanted to make it full to make it look better. Like if you have the space, you have to fill it with a chart. But actually what you do, you stretch it and it conveys completely different information. In this case, looks like the GDP is dropping from the cliff. It is dropping though. Here's an even extreme one in food industry. They're comparing calories, but they start at 590 here. So the difference isn't that much. And the same for tech industries, for example. As you can see, they start at 93.8%. And they stretch out these last 2% to make a difference, but actually there isn't much. And most extreme cases, you know, we are from Latvia, and our girls are the biggest ones. You've noticed that, I'm sure.
No, Indian girls can start behind, you know.
Yeah, but under. Yeah. Okay. Another thing you should not do, or how else you can lie, is by shifting scales. So one is cutting off the y-axis, but you can also shift these axes and change how these reports look like. For example, again, these are the same reports. One is the y scale is from 0 to 40, and on the right side is from 0 to 15. Here's the opposite, right? If the previous chart I showed not to fill the whole area with the chart, the main idea is do not change the y-axis to make any impactful differences in visual appearance. If you keep one specific scale, you stick to that scale. Otherwise, you can be fooled easily. And human eye is very perceptive about 45-degree angles. If it's more than 45, it looks like really steep. If it's less than 45, it looks mild. So if you want to make a dramatic effect, you squeeze or stretch the report to make it more than 45, and you get your result. Here is the temperature of the day by hour, and 3 different ways how you can measure. The first one is +5, +15 Celsius, which is typical summer, I would say, in Latvia. Yeah, the second one is more like +1, +20, 21, which is a typical summer warmer. And the last one is Earth's lowest and highest temperatures, I suppose. And the more you squeeze the axis, the less significant the change seems. Another example, squeezing not the y-axis, but the x-axis. Same thing, same data. Again, suddenly it looks more dramatic like that. And here's another chart. In eazyBI, I did the bad thing and I tried to squeeze it to show you how it works. But then, again, you should stick to one specific proportion or scale and use that, and don't change it. All right, line number 4, going against conventions. Can you spot what's wrong with the chart on the left? Yeah. So time axis should always run on the horizontal axis, and never you should never sort like time data. Yeah. Another different example, as I mentioned, time should run on the x-axis. If you put it on y-axis, again, these charts don't make sense for us. We like to see on the time from left to right. That's how we're wired or used to see things. Here's another example. Usually darker colors mean more. Here, as you can see, the red in the left side, the red dark colors means 0, and the bigger the less. So again, completely different. And here is one that was published somewhere in United States, where they wanted to show an impact that, for example, in 2005, Florida enacted a stand your ground law, which means that you can have your gun and you can defend yourself. And it seems like the number of murders committed decreased since that law. But actually they flipped the chart. So on the right side is the right chart. So starting with this law, the murders increased. All right, line number 5, biased or too small, selecting sample sections that are too small, how that can lie. A good example, for example, is if you go to a dog show and ask what's their favorite animal, and then you present this research. obviously you will have one opinion. The same thing goes if you select or sub-select specific number of users from a specific group, especially if you already know it's not random selection, which would be a sampling, but you deliberately select something and you can completely change the proportion or the outcome of this. Here's one example how a biased sample selection can change elections. Let's say we have like 60% of blues and 40% of red. If we split these sections in similar blocks without the bias, you would see that there are 5 blues, so blue wins. But we can sub-select. If we try to sub-select these segments so that certain segments would contain primarily only from these blue sections, blue users, and then this will change the election, as you can see, because there are more of those red blocks. All right, line number 6, the averages. If you use an average, you should know that an average is good only if the distribution is perfect, like the perfect bell curve. If it's skewed to one side or another, those averages will lie as well. There are different averages like mode, median, and mean. Here's one example. US income distribution in 1917. The median would be closer to 40,000, while the mean is 55,000, because it's very skewed on the one side. Here's the deaths in Australia in 2012. Again, completely different numbers, 77 years, 81 year, or 87 years, based on the average you use. And here is yet another example, and maybe this one looks even better because it's more intuitive. If you should draw a line, what's an average here? If we compare these 3 different options, you can see that when it comes to a mean, they look almost similar, all these 3 companies. Line number 7 is when you don't understand charts or you use the wrong chart. Yeah, unfortunately, you will understand that that's a huge issue. Pie charts are unfortunately one of the most abused charts there are. So always be careful. Pie chart should always, the sum should be 100%, never more, never less. It's better when you have different scales than use this one. Here is an actual example. There's a lot of things wrong in this particular example. The total is more than 100. They are comparing today, last year, and 97, which doesn't make sense. And at the bottom, the source, I mentioned, it's important what the source is. MOA means margin of error. It's not the source. The same fox, same fox again, using pie charts and 3D. And another one, this is the one who doesn't understand how pie charts work, I suppose. But this is how it should look, but it doesn't. But all right, not only pie charts can be deceiving. In this example, if you now see that this violet trend is actually going up, then you can look more careful into the left side and see that it's expanding. So when you use stack charts, we always remember that the stack chart only shows you a combination of things, and it's better to use it like stretch it everything to 100% and see how these parts change over time, but do not use that. to kind of understand the trends. Another bad example is when you mix different axes together. If there are vastly different scales for each axis, you might induce some correlation, or people looking at those charts might see some correlation where there is none. And it's better to stick at one y-axis. Yeah, and the reason why pie charts are not very good at all is because humans are bad at perceiving angles. You probably don't see much of a difference on these pie charts, whereas if that same information would be in bar charts, you would see the difference. And same goes with bubbles, because oftentimes I've had this argument about the pizza size so often. If the radius or the diameter of this pizza is half, then this actual area is much lower, and we can't really perceive areas as humans. So be careful with bubble charts, especially when you try to compare different things. Line number 9 is cherry picking, which means choosing the data that suits you best, as you may know. For example, choosing a specific time frame. You could probably choose the time frame that looks really good in your reports. At the same time, one mistake you might be doing is looking at most recent history and making decisions based on that. Whereas you should expand and look at more longer history periods. Here's also an example. It looks like the chart really took off, whereas it's actually bottomed for Twitter. And we can't ever forget about this. As you can see, he cherry-picked only his own party. And here's the same. The history is too short to make decisions. And when it comes to line charts and any data, this is a really good quote I would recommend for you. When you are in doubt and you don't know, then zoom out, and you will see the whole picture better. And finally, the line number 9, false correlation fallacies. Sometimes when you see two different lines together, they seem correlated. Correlation doesn't mean causation, and this is very important thing to remember. These are examples are, wow, you can find them anywhere. This is the saddest one. Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm over my time already. Questions?
You have a lot of political examples.
Yeah, because those are easy to find. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like good examples from the data map. Like, you know how the data map is 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
Greenland appears larger than
Exactly. Russia is as big as Africa in those maps. Yeah. Even bigger. Yeah. You should see elephants there. Like 4 times. All right.